All right, welcome everyone to another live stream here on the Maran Motoring YouTube channel. I hope you're all having a great weekend and a great evening here. And so, sorry I'm a few minutes late here. Just always a whirlwind in my life trying to stay up and be caught up on everything. But anyway, glad I'm here. Glad to see some of you here as well, even though I didn't pre-schedule this live stream. Thanks for those of you who remembered. It's 9 o'clock here on Sundays. But anyways, like all the other usual live streams here, I'm going to try and go for about 2 hours. My voice is kind of shot here because of just been a crazy week with SEMA, and I think I picked up a little bit of either allergies or something, so my throat's a little sore, nose is a little stuffy. So we'll see how long I go. I'm not guaranteeing 2 hours here, but we'll try and chat for as long as we can. And like usual, I always give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as those members. So thank you all so much for joining in here. I see we have Justin, Fook, Jeremy, Spike, Raphael, and then the non-members there as well, Mondo, Doug, and Cars, Carl, Truck Car Guy. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining in. And so Fook says, I'm taking you all grocery shopping. Hope you had a great time at SEMA, Matt. Well, thanks for joining in while you're doing the grocery shopping. That's I've actually never seen anyone do that before. That's cool. So I appreciate you tuning in there, even though I know we all have busy lives for sure. All right, so Doug says, I'm here, everyone. My second one here. Now, thanks for joining in, Doug. I'm glad you're joining on the live streams. And Truck Car Guy says, how was Vegas? Vegas was good. Vegas is always fun in small doses, is kind of my mentality, at least with Vegas. It's really fun, but it does kind of get old fast. And with SEMA, I mean, anyone that goes to SEMA can tell you it's exhausting. It's tons of walking, tons of just overload in all the ways. And then, especially doing sponsored stuff here this time, with all my Instagram posts that I was doing, those just took a lot of time. Reels, you wouldn't think reels take very long, but with sponsored stuff, you have to get approval for the script first, and then they have to check out the video, and you got to make sure that you're, hitting all the points you need to hit and all that stuff. So there's a little bit more that went into it, and I had some other, obligations and stuff, and people to talk to and all that. So it's always a whirlwind at SEMA, but it's fun. It's a good kind of fun. It's just always crazy and fun. So it's never relaxed and fun for me. Everything is always crazy, but fun. It's always the disclaimer, but yeah, it was very, very cool. It's always fun seeing the crazy cars people build. It's fun with people watching as well. The crowd that shows up at SEMA is always an interesting group of folks, many of them. So that's always fun too. And just always seeing friends and people that I haven't seen very often. Like I was able to meet up with Chris Fix again and chat with him, and I haven't seen him in a couple of years, so that was really cool. And so just all kinds of good stuff. But I highly recommend. I think Vegas is a great thing to do at least once. And it was kind of cool this time too, because they were getting ready for the F1 race, and I don't watch F1, but I know some people have asked about that in the past. It was cool seeing them, they had the grandstands up and some of the apexes, with the white and red, curbing there, and the fencing and all that had already started to go up and all that. And the locals didn't seem to love it. They were hating the extra traffic, but my Lyft driver was very annoyed about how he's like, oh, I got this all screwed up and stuff. But it was good. Yeah, I think Vegas is a lot of fun. Let me see. So other questions here. Raphael says, first off, the non-MR2, please stop giving us cars with more performance than we can ever use on the street. That car would have been a great at a low price with 240 horsepower. Totally agree. And there was someone who commented on that weekly update, which is now, almost, a week and a half old or whatever. And they said, there's still an MR2 happening. That's still something that's being worked on with a gas engine. I don't know if they were just citing those rumors that were previously posted in Japanese magazines, but they were speaking very matter-of-factly, being like, yeah, the MR2 is still a thing. That's still coming. This is different. Who knows if, there's any credibility there. Take that with a very huge, enormous boulder-sized lump of salt. But maybe there is still an actual MR2 happening as well. Yeah, I have no clue. You would think they would have shown a concept of something like that off though, before this futuristic thing for 2027 or whatever. So I don't know. But yeah, I agree though. I just make stuff that people can actually enjoy on the streets. Like I was saying with the Corvette CR1 in my weekly update, it's like sure, 850 horsepower sounds great. It'll be great for bragging rights. It'll be great for people that are chasing drag times. But outside of that, like Z06 is plenty already. And honestly, more than plenty. I mean, that car was one that I was even struggling to like, I mean, I was enjoying it, but it was just like it's so easy to go so fast in it still, and it's very addictive, and you want to stay in it longer and longer and stuff, and it's a even that car, it's really hard to. I'd be nervous about keeping my driver's license having that car, I think, because it's just so fast already, and then it's like, hey, let's add another 200 horsepower on. Great, I guess if you don't have any care in the world about laws or something. Austin Powers, thanks for joining in. He says, "Hey Matt, did you happen to check out Tavares's McLaren P1 Evo at SEMA?" I didn't. I honestly. So getting back to how SEMA was always a whirlwind, and this time in particular, I had less time because since SEMA was overlapping Halloween, I really wanted to be home with my daughter on Halloween here, and that was just very important to me. Thankfully, Shell was cool with me not coming in until Wednesday, but that meant that I had Wednesday and Thursday and then half of Friday, and a lot of that time was taken up with again my obligations with Shell. I had to be at their booth for 2 hours each day. I had to, and then I immediately raced back to my hotel and edited the footage and then got approval for the footage and was waiting around for that approval. And, so there was all that kind of stuff. So I actually didn't go into the convention center at SEMA until Friday afternoon. That was the first time I'd actually been inside of it. There's a bunch of cars parked outside and stuff too, but I didn't even go in until then. And then even that was just like really quick because I had to film some of the weekly update stuff. If you saw some of the live footage there, that was the footage that I had shot, like a couple hours earlier. So I went in, hit the Toyota booth up since it was in the same area. I hit up the Liquid Molly booth because they were where the Fast and Furious cars. I was like, I got to see the Fast and Furious clone cars. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw it on my story. So I had to just see those since they were in the same area there. And then I shot over to the Ford Performance booth and the Nissan booth, filmed that stuff for the weekly update, and I got out of there. So I did not have time to see that or anything else aside from the stuff that I happened to quickly pass by. I was able to stop at the Expel booth and say hi to my buddy there at Expel. And that was pretty much it. I talked to Ford's doing like a new wrap thing where you can do wraps on cars within Ford, and I was able to chat with them for a few minutes. So I talked to those two people, saw what I saw, and that was it. And I still ended up colossally screwing up the weekly update because I was hoping I'd have faster Wi-Fi, and then I didn't end up getting that weekly update out until way late. And so yeah, Friday was crazy, but so no, I did not have time to see it. It sounded like it was very awesome, and I'm sure there was zillions of awesome builds I would have loved to check out. I just did not have the time, unfortunately. Story of my life. Hugo says, "Hey Matt, just tuned in. How was your trip? A little jealous." Well, I guess you didn't miss too much there, but it was great. Otherwise, it's like I said, it's fun, but it always is crazy. It's a crazy whirlwind. Every single thing I do in the car world, it seems, is always like I never have enough time, but it's always a ton of fun. And let me see. Cam Jam says, "Hi, Matt. I found a 2016 Ford Fusion with a 2.0T near me. Seems like a good value, and it has an engine with a bunch of torque. Thoughts? Also, I went to the Drag Racing World Cup. It was pretty cool. I didn't know that was a thing. That's cool. As far as the Fusion goes, they're great. I did a review on, I think it was a 2014 Ford Fusion or 2013, and that one was a titanium, so it had the 2.0T. It's an old review, but if you want to hear my thoughts from 10 years ago on a Fusion, check that out. I've had them as rental cars since then a couple of times. I've always liked the Fusion. I thought the Fusion was really underrated, underappreciated. Honestly, I thought it was really good. Like I actually prefer the Fusion over that generation Camry, not the current generation, but the generation before. I liked it better than that. I liked it better than the Accord of that generation. Coupe not included. But as far as the sedan version, the Fusion was one of my favorite midsize sedans. And then then they just decided to not continue it, unfortunately. But I love the Fusion. So I think, as long as the maintenance has been done on it and it's solid, that 2.0T motor is solid too. My aunt actually had that 2.0T in her Escape, And I don't know how, I think she was like 160,000 miles before the turbo blew. So I don't know how long they'll last beyond that, but it should be a good reliable motor as long as the miles aren't sky high. Um, and so yeah, I think Fusion's a great buy. And Kyle says, "Hey Matt, my dealer got their first Blazer EV. So far, it's been 2 weeks and not sold yet. I'm a little surprised." Wow, that is surprising actually, because usually you would think in any given area there's always at least one early adopter that's chomping at the bit, or someone who catches wind and wants one and they're willing to make the trip. Interesting. I wonder. I mean, they haven't done any promotion. I mean, I just found out there will be a media drive happening. I'm not invited to it, at least not yet. Happening in December. But I mean, they're way behind, and that's very uncommon in the automotive industry to have a media drive weeks and potentially months after the car is on sale. I don't know what's going on with EVs at GM. It's just like they cannot build battery packs, and that's why they've only built a dozen Hummers or whatever this year, and they've only built a few dozen Lyrics and stuff. I don't know what is being strangled in their supply chain that they can't build electric cars outside of the Bolt. But yeah, I'm curious to see how the Blazer does now. We just heard, with Equinox going up, like we were chatting in the weekly update there, Kyle. I don't know, how that's going to go, if they're now going to be $5,000 more expensive for even the base one, and it's just affordability is the bottom line. So I'm glad the Bolt's going to be cheap and stay cheap with its simpler battery tech and stuff. But that's I think people are just over expensive EVs right now, and I don't blame them. And thanks for joining in, Brian. Two says Matt's back from SEMA. Quick back to the basement. Kyle, fire up Race Shadow Legends. Yep. See, I let you guys, go and have fun on the Bullet, and now you got to get back to the basement. But thanks for joining in too, and thanks for keeping up the basement jokes. Hugo says that's a Ford Taurus show that they're selling. Would you get it even after it's been discontinued? The Taurus show is a good vehicle if you want something with a really promising motor in it. I mean, it's great for a straight line stuff. It's a soft cruiser. But it's honestly, sorry, my phone's going off. My watch is going off. I didn't have time to mute everything here. So yeah, I mean, I think whenever I reviewed the show, I mean, it's been a long time, so I do have a review of a Taurus show if anyone's curious. It just was soft. The transmission wasn't sporty. I mean, it's just a bunch of power and it's comfortable. But if you want a bunch of power and comfort, just get a Charger or something, in my opinion. Unless you just don't like Dodge and the Ford's, a better setup. It seems like it's a fine vehicle, but from an enthusiast standpoint, it was not exciting. And I don't know if it was worthy of the show badge, because not like it holds much value these days, but that was really like an awesome lineage that they had going there with the shows in the 90s. And then, this to me did not live up to that name, but still a nice cruiser with a bunch of power, and if you're going into it with just that mindset, I think, there's nothing wrong with it. And let me see here. Austin says, "Hey Matt, I rewatched your 2.0 Super review, and now I want one. Just need to wait and see if the used car market cools down some more. Used ones are still hovering in the low 40s, it seems." That's crazy. I would have thought for sure they'd be lower than that. That's because I feel like low 40s. I mean, I haven't looked at used Supras in a while, but I feel like used Supras have already gotten into the mid 40s for the 3.0s. I could be wrong, but that seems strangely high. I would have bet money on the fact that Super 2.0s are probably in the 30s by this point, but I guess not. Maybe they're strangely holding their value because they're so rare, and maybe they have a niche following or something. I don't know. That's interesting, but hopefully you can find a good deal on one. I mean, if you're only talking a few grand difference, though, just get the 3.0. It sounds better. I mean, I like the 2.0 a lot, but the extra power for, if it's only a few grand difference, I would just go for the 3.0. But if there's a good savings there, then that's why I said in my original review, like you probably saw, it's a good value if you can get it, for a good discount, or you can, have a good buffer there between that and the 3.0. But yeah, I don't know if I'd pay low 40s for a used one, honestly, because I mean, how much were they new? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I feel like you could almost probably get a new one in the low 40s honestly. So that seems definitely high. I would not buy a used one in the low 40s. And Broly, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, "Hi, why is current gen CX5 still have bad resale?" That's actually a very good question. I've wondered myself, and I don't have a good answer. But it's an excellent question because yeah, I mean, like my sister has a CX5, she loves it, and I was looking up used ones because they're very popular around here. I mean, my neighbors, multiple neighbors around here have one. Like I said, my sister has one. I see them everywhere, and it is this strange phenomenon, and I can't wrap my head around it either. Like they have top-notch reliability according to all reports. They look good. There's nothing repulsive there styling wise. They they're affordable. They have good servicing. They're simple. There's nothing that should depreciate. The electronics are solid, so it's not like a German vehicle that falls off a cliff because it's expensive to maintain. It's not expensive to maintain a Mazda. But you're right. Like they don't hold their value like a RAV4 or a CRV even, and it's bizarre to me because the CX5 is still probably, if not my absolute favorite for all circumstances, but it's one of my top recommendations for most people shopping in that segment. And if it's especially cheaper and it's still super reliable and all that, you don't have to worry about the turbo motor like you have to worry about in the CRV. I mean, I really think the CX5 is like actually the runner up to the RAV4 as far as like bulletproof, compact crossovers and SUVs. So like, I don't know. I think that's why everyone's buying them used though, because they are phenomenal values and everyone knows it. And so, I mean, they're good. They're priced well new already, but buying them used is such a good bargain. It's insane. You can get a really nice CX5 for very little money. And so yeah, it's one of those. I don't know why they are priced the way they are, but it's one of those probably like unspoken, like, oh, let's not ruin the good thing that we have going here, and everyone just keeps buying all the used CX5s up. They seem like they sell really fast, so I think people are hip to that idea. But yeah, I have no clue why they just don't hold their value. It's a very good question. And if you ever find an answer, Broly, from anyone else, please let me know because I'm stumped as well. I would love to know the answer to that one too. But thanks for the super chat. And let me see here. Trent Carger, thank you so much for joining into the Matt Maran Motoring Club here. I really appreciate you joining back in. And it's over 6 months now. So thanks for your support and thanks for joining back in here. And let me see. Brian Gasser says, surprised Ford gave up the Taurus with the demand from fleet and government vehicles. I believe that is what is supporting the Chevy Malibu right now. Yeah, probably. Because I think that's what whenever I did my end of last year and I was talking about like the best sellers of 2022 and the Malibu was one of them. And I like couldn't wrap my head around it. And a lot of people were like, well, it's probably rental fleets. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen a ton of Malibus in rental fleets myself, but I'm assuming elsewhere in the country that is the case. And that's got to be it because I don't see a bunch of brand new Malibus driving around all the time. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's strange that Ford gave that up. I mean, I guess they just hoped everyone would just go straight over to the Explorer, and a lot of them did. But I think a lot of police stations, still like having sedans, for no other reason, just the fact they handle better. Still, I think over an Explorer or something like that, even if it's just marginally better. But yeah, it's strange, and I would love to like go behind the scenes at Ford of what the actual truth is of, not just the PR speak and the, Kool-Aid people that are just toting the party line and people that are actually like honest about Ford's decisions. Like I would love to see if they're like second guessing, they're abandoning cars and, abandoning, the fleet stuff and all that. I don't know. It is strange, but Ford always is convinced they're making the right decisions and they've never made a mistake and they're doing their thing. So it is what it is, but I'm right there with you, Brian. Trenton Carger says, hopefully we will get back to normal starting next week. I'm not sure what you're referencing there, but it's good to see that the strikes have ended though this past week, and so hopefully the fact they were so short-lived, what doesn't screw up any of the just supply chain too much. I'm sure it will affect it a little bit, but hopefully we won't have any kind of messed up, car prices as a result any longer. And Brian said, thanks for the trial membership. Yeah, I'm so glad that we always have the gifting and stuff that always happens too from Kyle and others. That definitely helps with the giving everyone that trial run there. Linda, thanks for joining in. Cam Jam says CX5 seems like a great car to me from what I've seen. They drive great, look great, reliable, good features. Yuri from Straight Pipes got a turbo one and he loves it. Yeah, they're every time I've had one for a week and I've reviewed them, I've always enjoyed them as well. So yeah, I think we all kind of agree. Like, what's wrong with the CX5? They don't hold their value. It's really strange. Kyle says my dealer got 9 Malibus over the last few weeks and sold them very quickly. Wow, so they're selling faster than the brand new Blazer EV, the first one on the lot. That's saying something. I think, yeah, I don't know, maybe we've really hit like the end of the line as far as how many people actually want EVs and they've already got them. And it's like not moving from there. Like there's no converts. It's like everyone is firmly on one side or the other. And I think that just the EV market's pretty saturated, I guess, compared to what everyone was expecting demand wise. It probably also helps that Malibus are nice and cheap still, and have the pre-inflation pricing, and are paid off, so Chevy doesn't have to keep jacking the price up or anything, because that development cost has been paid off probably for a long time now. But I think the Malibu is a solid little cruiser too, so I'm happy to see that these legacy vehicles are still doing well for these companies. Trenton Car Guy says, I've been seeing several Mazdas in our fleet and they're nice, but the infotainment system could be better. Okay, well, that's a good theory. So we can unpack that a little bit. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of the CX5 depreciation stuff this live stream. Because I could see that being a valid reason. Yeah, if people don't want to do the controller wheel, is that enough to hurt the value that much? I don't know. My sister has no problem with the controller wheel. Every time I review a Mazda and complain about the controller wheel, everyone says, oh, it's fine, you're full of crap. So, I think at least people who give it a shot seem like they learn to live with it and it's fine. And now, you can, with the newest Mazdas, get the touch as well. But yeah, maybe if that's what it is, it's just people are just like, oh man, this doesn't have a touchscreen, and that lowers the demand a little bit, and therefore the pricing. That's probably actually the best theory there, Trucking Car Guy. I think you've potentially nailed it, because I can't think of any better reason for them to be undesirable. But that is one undesirable thing for sure. So that could be it. And MD Can says they never made a mistake, then they bring back the Ranger 7 years later. Yeah, well, that's the Ford way. They, that was the right choice for the right time, and now we're changing things because the time is right, and on and on they go. And Trunk Car Guy says also, we do have a few Malibus in our fleet. Okay, so I guess it is truly doing well as a fleet vehicle, which is good. Fleets need cars too, and someone's going to sell fleet vehicles. So, if it's not going to be Chevy and stuff, I guess Hyundai and Kia can step in. But I know Honda hates that. They do not like having fleet stuff. And Toyota doesn't seem too opposed, but I think they also are very sensitive about that, because they don't want to have fleets completely flooded with Toyotas either. So, yeah, and it's actually surprising. I've seen more and more Subarus in fleets too, which was something I wasn't expecting. But I think their enormous sales growth has actually been probably boosted slightly by fleets as well, and that's something people probably don't think about. But I've been seeing a lot of Subarus in rental fleets, and I think it also helps that they're so cheap too. So it's like, you can flood the market with Imprezas and stuff, and you can say, "Oh, it has all-wheel drive," which, especially in snowy, rental places, is also an extra perk you can probably even charge extra for. And let me see. Cam Jam says, Matt, don't talk good about this. Use 6.5s, they'll start to go up in value. Yeah, I wish I was that influential. But yeah, I think it's a good little best kept secret in the car world as far as car shopping. As long as you can live with that controller wheel, get yourself a CX5 if you just want a solid little crossover. They're great. Hugo says, have you heard anything on the redesigned Malibu? Nothing since I talked about it, probably, I don't know, 6 months ago or something in the weekly update. It seems like there's still two trains of thought. The most recent thing from GM Authority, I think, was that there's just going to be a heavy refresh on the Malibu, which is what it seems like everyone else is doing. That's what Honda did with the Accord and stuff. Kind of just same platform, just tweak things a little bit, give it fresh styling, fresh interior, and you're set. And honestly, for that kind of buyer, that is all they need. They want a sedan still, and they don't have to have the most cutting edge engineering or anything. They just want something comfortable and good looking. And I think the Accord nailed it. I think I've said this before in another live stream, but Honda just nailed what the Accord needed to be as far as a mass market vehicle. And I'm seeing these new Accords everywhere. I think they're selling, at least around here, selling super well, and for good reason. I think, people complained about the styling and said it was too bland and this, that, and the other, but Honda knew what they were doing, and people are buying them like crazy because it's exactly what people actually want. A lot of people aren't, enthusiasts. They're not as exciting as we'd like to think they are. They just want something that doesn't offend them styling wise. That's got a soft, smooth, cushy ride, and basically the closest thing they can get to a rolling couch that looks decent and isn't infuriating to use the infotainment in. Done, and that's the Accord. And let me see here. There's also, by the way, Hugo, there's another rumor about there being an EV Chevy Malibu thing, but I feel like that, especially since, again, they can't find a battery to save their lives over at GM right now. I just feel like that's probably put on the back burner, and it's almost guaranteed that it's going to just be a heavily reworked current Malibu, and that's it. And Kyle says, Matt, that Blazer EV is an RS model, and the MSRP is 61. Not too sure, but I think other EV models are better value at the moment. Yeah, I think it has a niche where, it has some appeal. Like when the Blazer first came out, they did a lot of things right, as far as they gave it a sun visor on the huge glass roof, which like the Mach-E and the Tesla Model Y don't have. That's something would be nice to have. I mean, we don't really mind not having a visor. It hasn't been a pain as much as I was expecting it to be, honestly. But like they thought through that and they did that. And they added cooled seats, which you can't get in a Mach-E or a Model Y, and these things that are very important things that Ford kind of tossed by the wayside because they were just too busy reverse engineering a Model Y. And Chevy, is like, oh, well, maybe we should still keep some of these things in. I think people still want these things, and they're right. So I thought, if the Blazer EV was a head-on rival with the Mach-E, same pricing as the Mach-E, that it would sell better than the Mach-E. And maybe it will eventually, but if they're 61 grand, I mean, I guess that's kind of equivalent because they keep jacking up the Mach-E prices too. But it's gonna be tough these days because Mach-E's are sitting on lots and you can get them for 10 grand off or whatever. And maybe the Blazer will get there pretty quickly if they can't even sell the first one they have on the lot. But it's sticker price though. It might be tough to justify, for actual shoppers if they're cross shopping. But I think that on paper, as far as feature set goes, the Blazer is set up better than its competitors and has the wireless CarPlay, which you can't get in the Hyundais still for a little bit until they add the new gen, infotainment system and stuff. So they have an edge. It's a narrow edge, but they have one. And if they exploit it properly, I think they could actually have a success on their hands with that. But it doesn't seem like it's going to matter anyway because they're not going to be able to build them probably. So, it's a moot point, I guess. And let me see. Jazz says, Matt, will Infiniti send you 2024 press cars? So 2024, I mean, we will see, who sends me cars and stuff. But I mean, if everything continues the way it has, I mean, I have Infinitis available to me. It's just that Nissans typically do pretty terrible on the channel, and Infinitis only do well if they're old Infinitis. Like the new ones, just it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest there. I passed on a QX60 probably almost a year ago at this point because I just wasn't confident that anyone would care on this channel. And QX50, I tried to get one when they first came out, but now they're old news. They're very old and outdated, so I'm not going to bother trying to cover one of those. I am excited to cover their new gen stuff, and I mean, maybe the QX80 will be worth covering because sometimes those vehicles strangely do well on the channel. Those giant things, it's either complete hit or complete miss with those. But that's one I may do because that is coming this year. But as far as like the QX65, if that's just a coupe QX60, coupe as far as just a sloping roof on a four-door giant SUV, I feel like that one probably isn't worth covering either for, again, the people that watch this channel. So don't have a ton of interest in Infinitis currently, but like I said, I'm always open to reviewing whatever if I see that there's enough support there and there's enough demand from you guys. If it's stuff you really want to see, then I'm happy to review it. But typically Infinitis, unless it's a G35, a G37, or a Q50, it's like nothing. So that's where I sit with Infiniti right now. So, but we'll see what happens. Sometimes if I just need a car to fill a slot in the schedule and they don't have a lot to pick from, there's some times where I compromise and I take cars anyway that I know aren't going to be grand slams, but I just take them. So there may be a time that I get an Infinity that sneaks in that way or something. We'll see. Um, and Trunk Car Guy says Mazda is not the only one who has an obsession with the controller wheel. Don't get me started on BMW and Mercedes gimmicks. Yeah, that's true. I mean, at least with those companies, they give you options. Like the Mercedes, has like the trackpad thing, but they also now have touchscreens as well. And just giving people that choice, I think, is helpful. BMW is doing that now too, at least with the newer stuff. So I think, and now Mazda's following in their tracks with doing the same thing with the CX-90, of having the touchscreen optional, and also having the controller. I think that's the best way to do it. Keep everyone happy and no one can complain because you either have, the controller or you have the screen. And as long as you give the people that option, you're good. Cam Jam says, just found out used RDXs with low options are in the mid to high 20s. That's another one that's dropped. And that also forces you to use a controller. So I think Truck and Car Guy's he's onto something here. I think that is, I'm very happy to finally have a good working theory about why those two depreciate, because the RDX is another really solid buy on the used market. And I guess it's just people who just get annoyed with those controllers and trade them in. And then other people test drive them and say, oh, this doesn't have a touchscreen, forget this. And then that's it. So, I think that's that's a very interesting point. But yeah, RDXs are great. I love the RDX. The new refresh, at least the one I had, just the suspension was a little stiff. I don't know if that was just my car or what, but the first RDX I had was great, and I was really impressed with that when they first came out. And the 0 to 60 times. Thank you so much for your first super chat and for a very generous one at that. Thanks so much for joining in. He says, hey man, quick questions. Camaro V6 6MT versus Elantra N 6MT as a daily, storage aside. And then second, advice for someone aspiring to do what you do considering the current environment and auto reviewer situation. Great questions. As far as the Camaro versus Elantra as a daily, so I'll give you the brief overview of this, and then feel free to send me a message. Typically on Facebook's where I go back and forth with people. If you're wanting, you can just hop on the fan page there, and I can chat with you in depth more as far as do you encounter bad weather? I'm assuming if it's a daily, you wouldn't be considering a Camaro if you get heavy snow all the time, but I just like always laying all the context out there just to make sure that there's nothing that I'm missing when I'm trying to give the best recommendation possible. But just as far as a surface level kind of, then you're not worried about storage, like you said. So between those two, I don't love the visibility in the Camaro still. Most Camaro owners say it's not a deal breaker and it's fine. It's just they're very, obviously they deliver their power in different ways. They're different, there's just polar opposite cars. You have turbocharging and power down low in the Elantra, the V6 Camaro. You have to wring that motor out still, but it sounds really good. So does the Elantra, but different ways. There's just those differences there. As far as obviously rear wheel drive versus front wheel drive is very different kind of driving characteristics. So there's just a lot there. And so it's going to come down to your personal preferences for what kind of driving experience you like. If you've never had rear wheel drive before, it could be something that'd be a little sketchy the first time you stomp on it in the rain or something. So there's just, if that's a learning curve you want to go down, you can. There's a lot there. So it's really hard to just give an off the cuff, quick little recommendation. I think though, Camaro doesn't, you said you're not worried about storage. I'm assuming you're talking about like trunk space and back seat space. But the one thing daily driving about the Camaro that is annoying is there's not any like cabin interior space. There's like, the center console is about this deep and about this big, it's like you can't even fit a cell phone in there. And then, the pockets and the doors are tiny. There's nowhere to put anything in the Camaro. And I feel like in a daily, again, you don't need to be able to transfer a mattress, but you should at least be able to like fit a pack of gum somewhere without too much inconvenience, or put your sunglasses somewhere. And in the Camaro, you don't have that stuff. Again, that's a dumb thing to base a car decision on, I guess. But, just as far as just daily driving and living with something, I just feel like Camaro is just the worst at that. I think the Challenger and the Mustang are better. That's why it's easier to live with my Mustang, because I have places to put things. It's also a little more comfortable. You can see out of it better, on and on. But so but then see the Elantra N, I don't love the seats in the Elantra N for a daily because of the angle of them. For me, it like pushes on my thigh whenever I'm hitting in the clutch. That's going to be a body type thing. So sit in an Elantra N before you make that decision for sure if you can, because I don't think the Elantra N seats are great with everyone's body type. So sit in an Elantra N if you if you haven't already. If you can get a comfortable driving position, just sitting there, you don't even have to test drive it. Just sit in it, and if it's comfortable, cool. I'd probably say Elantra N would be my pick. But if anything I've mentioned, sways you one way or another, then take that and run with it. But feel free to definitely send me a message, and we can, kind of work through the extra context and help hopefully give you some better advice than what I've currently given you. And hopefully that helps you a little bit with the first part of your question there. Camaro is great though. I love the V6 Camaro. It's a ton of fun. And if you're not worried about putting stuff on the inside anywhere, and that's not a concern for you, then I'd say Camaro is the better platform. The Camaro is the better, it's a true sports car platform. The Alpha platform is fantastic. Versus the Elantra is again still the same recipe of let's take an economy car and soup it up. That's fun in its own way. It's an amazing achievement. They've done so much. It's so far beyond a regular Elantra that it's not like it's haunted by that in my mind, but it's just, it's still the materials. I mean, Camaro is not, fantastic as far as materials goes, especially in the lower trims, but it's, the Elantra is just, it's still based on an economy car, and the Camaro isn't. So there's some of that as well. So hopefully that helps you. As far as the advice for someone trying to, do what I do here with the car reviewing, I think so. I did a video last year whenever it was my 10-year anniversary of doing car reviews, and it's like how I got into doing car reviews or something like that. If you search on the channel, it's just how I got into reviewing cars, and that gives my whole story and how I got to where I am today. And I see your questions about current environment, but I think that gives some good advice about how the state of things right now in the car reviewing world. But just off the cuff, quick little impressions as well, recently here. I would just say that the best advice for someone that wants to do this is you really have to try and find something unique, something different. There's so much competition out there that just doing the same thing everyone else is doing, it might help you to rise above. And if you are coming at it from a unique viewpoint, a female reviewer or someone who's not a white guy like myself that's younger, and if there's different viewpoints, there's different body types. People could review cars that are super tall or larger, and how those seats fit them. There's different things there. So it's, if you are someone like me, it's I think a little tough right now, because it's just like people like me are a dime a dozen in the car reviewing world, to be totally honest. So if there's something unique there, or there's something as far as your mentality of how you're going to review cars, as far as do you want to do something that no one's done before, whether it's a new type of test or a new, approach, or, just if you have something different to offer, that's going to be your real key to success. Or if you're just really good looking, because social media, I was just listening on Sirius XM tonight. There's some person who said they literally have only been on TikTok for 1 year, and they've already grown their following so large that they're now hosting their own show on Sirius XM. 1 year of social media posting on TikTok. It helps that they're attractive, but it's just like, so depending on how you approach things and stuff, anything's possible. You could be the next Doug DeMuro in a year if you play your cards right, and you have the right niche, and you have the right personality, the right look, whatever it is. Anything's possible, but you got to have that edge. That's the bottom line. It's so oversaturated. Every single person that owns a GoPro is doing car reviews now, and that's great. That's how I got into it. Is there's no barrier to entry. We all have an even shot, relatively speaking. We all have a relatively level playing field, and so it's just a matter of putting your best foot forward and the consistency, and I would say, if you actually do want to do this sustainably, you got to figure out your pipeline of cars ahead of time. You have to figure out, don't assume that you're going to someday get the manufacturer cars and get the press cars, because that's that is something that's not as hard to get into as it used to be, but that you still have to have a pretty decent following before they will send you that kind of stuff. So you got to ahead of time be like for me, I was fortunate that I had friends that owned car dealerships. I don't know if you have that advantage, but that is certainly something that helps because then they're like anything on the lot, that's always getting refreshed, you can just drive whatever you want. And that's what helped me to keep going in those early years because I tried, doing rental cars and, friends' cars, and that dries up quick. There's only so many family member cars, there's only so many friends. And that's a really short period of time to try and build enough of a following to let some random person let you drive their car or have reach out to manufacturers. Like it's very tough, especially these days, to get the subscribers, to get the views. So I would just say it's a grind, and unless you're super lucky, it's a grind. You got to just grind out stuff for a long time, and if you have that long just path of cars and you got an unlimited supply of cars to get into, then you can get there. I mean, it's also, some people like, David Patterson, for him, it was going to car meets and meeting people. And then, you have everyone at the car show. And eventually if you're, enough of a people person and you're, outgoing and you're likable, then there could be some supply there if you want to go for the modified stuff as well. So there's, again, various ways to approach it and ways to do it, but I would just say that you got to figure out how it's going to be sustainable before you waste your time doing 3 car reviews and being like, okay, well, now I can't get my hands on any more cars, and then it's just kind of a dead end. So I think that's the tough part, is just getting a reliable stream of cars. And if you can figure that part out ahead of time, then you're set. Or if you can at least figure it out long enough to get you to enough of a following that you think you could keep it going from there, then that's great. But I think that's really the biggest thing that keeps a lot of people from doing it. So yeah, any connections you have to car dealerships, things like that, could certainly help. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Feel free to ask any follow-up questions, and hopefully that's good insight. And again, feel free to send me a message on Facebook or something as well if you'd like to chat more. I'd be more than happy to. And thank you so much again for the super chat. Getting back to the other member questions here, let me see. So Raphael said, Savage, he said the problem with EVs is really that unless you just want electric, they don't add anything for the extra cost over the gas models. Totally agree. Yeah, I think so. I agree with that for the most part. I think there are some unique characteristics about EVs, and those are redeeming qualities that could justify the extra price as well. For example, no one likes going to get an oil change. No one likes stopping at the gas station typically. Those are things that you don't have to worry about with an EV. And so that's a personal preference thing that's been happening for a long time. I was actually just thinking about this the other day when I was driving through my neighborhood, and I saw one person with a gas leaf blower and one person with an electric leaf blower. And it's like, this phenomenon has been going on in other technology for a long time of, like my dad always, the second electric lawnmowers came out, he's like, oh, I want that. I hate doing the maintenance. I hate tinkering with even my gas engine and my lawnmower, like, was the biggest pain. And so the second he was like, wow, there's electric lawnmowers, music to his ears, I'm done with maintenance, hooray. And I think in the car world, it's just, once people can afford those, it's going to be the same thing for a lot of people. But there are also people who enjoy tinkering with their gas lawnmower, or they don't mind it, or they like it for whatever reason, and you'll have those people as well. So I think there is some stuff there like that. And I think even like Beth, one of the things, she really hates transmissions that don't react fast enough, that don't give her the response immediately. She loves the instant response of the electric. And she's like, I'm not going back. Like, I really love not having to sit there and have my transmission play a guessing game of what I want. And that's a very valid point. Automatics are very dim-witted. I mean, I could play devil's advocate and say, this is why I drive a manual, because I also get annoyed with them, and I just take control into my own hands and have a manual. But the manual thing isn't really something she's interested in. So it's a nice alternative to have the electric and have that instant response and that better control, I guess, than an automatic gas car. So, yes, there are a few things. I don't think it's only just like, hey, I want a battery instead of an engine, and that's it. I think there's a little more there redeeming qualities for EVs, putting aside the environmental stuff. Again, pros and cons of that as well. But, I think there is also something to be said about that. But as far as, I think that, again, inherently they do have a few advantages as well. They could justify the extra cost depending on your personality type and how handy you are and all that. But I agree otherwise. It is, and that's something I've, struggled with. Like, even when I did the EQB review for the Mercedes, I was like, even if you do want an EV, would you want an EV badly enough to pay an extra 10 grand for essentially a GLB with a battery in it? Is that, worth it to a GLB buyer to upgrade to an EQB? Even if you hate oil changes, do you have to hate them enough to pay 10 grand extra? So I think that's the thing is, but once we get to cost parity, I think the EVs are really, that's when the avalanche of support will happen for EVs, when everyone, can get that for the same price points. The range is enough that it doesn't freak people out. The charging times are enough that it's not a giant pain in the butt on a road trip. Once those two things happen, which I truly believe is going to happen around 2026 or so with these solid state ones and, these 600-mile Toyota batteries coming out and stuff, like once those hit, I think, obviously we're talking about new car buyers that are buying stuff that's, 40, 50 grand or whatever. But like, as that trickles down here, as we get into the 2030s and stuff, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of people in that, gas versus electric lawnmower kind of situation. And they'll be like, yeah, well, why would I want to bother with this? I don't need to worry about, why do I want to go to a Jiffy Lube? Who wants to go to a Jiffy Lube? Like, just use that as an example, nothing against Jiffy Lube, but I think there's gonna be a lot of people that are just like, sweet, one other thing I don't have to worry about anymore. Sounds good to me. As long as they can remember to plug it in and they live in a place where they can plug it in. But so again, there's some caveats there, but anyway, long-winded answer, but yeah, I kind of agree for sure. Fook says, talking about fleets, I once rented a front-wheel drive all-season tires Altima in Fairbanks, Alaska in the middle of October. Not recommending it, but I'm surprised what fleets are willing to have on their lot. Yeah, I had something similar. I can't remember what it was, but I think at one point I had a rental car that was rear-wheel drive on summer tires for some strange reason in the wintertime. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember the details, but I've seen that before. It's like, what are they doing? Like, you'd think maybe they're trying to get people to total cars for some reason. I don't know. But let me see. Hugo says, also, my girlfriend would love if Beth would give her a shout out in the interior review. Her name is Kira. Yeah, well, it's going to be a while before we do an interior review. We'll be doing one, I think, towards the end of this month. But we've kind of taken a break from those because none of the cars that I've been reviewing recently are worth doing it in. We're really just only doing them in high volume, relatively affordable stuff that's family oriented. And there's just some stuff that is family oriented, but it doesn't sell a lot, or it's expensive. And it's just like the amount of people looking for that is such a narrow amount of people. There's just, it's not worth doing the separate video on that. But let me see other questions here. Brian says, why did Accords ditch Sirius XM for Honda's top of the line sedan? Seems like a strange deletion. Yeah, I don't get it either. And I was even trying to figure it out online back when I was doing my Accord review. And a lot of people on the forums couldn't figure it out either. Excuse me. So I don't know. I don't know why they did that, because all the other new Hondas have it. The new Acuras have it. I don't know what happened with the Accord. I don't know. Yeah. And the Accord that it's based on, the prior generation also had it. So your guess is as good as mine. It's another very good question. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for, but if you find out the answer, Brian, let me know, because I would love to know as well. Rafi says he doesn't feel like he even sees new Infinities on the road. Yeah, I used to see a lot more because there was an Infiniti dealer probably about 15 minutes from my house, and then they sold it to a Mazda dealer. And the Infiniti dealer is now moved to being like 40 minutes away from me for the closest one. So now I like never see very many Infinitis. I think a lot of people back then, they were cheap leases to say you have a luxury car, which around here a lot of people like to have. So there was some appeal there, and then they kind of shot themselves in the foot because they moved to a different part of town that I feel like isn't quite as into the luxury brands. And I think I don't think they did a great job with their switch. But so anyway, I don't see very many as well anymore, but I had for a good while there in the late 2010s here, I was seeing a lot of QX60s, especially all over the place. And I still see a decent amount, but yeah, the brand new stuff, I don't really see too much of. And Hunter says, I feel bad for anyone that bought a Ford Lightning for markup. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you never know. You never, I mean, I think the markups are always a bad idea. And I think paying them is always foolish because I think most of the times you can still find a car without a markup if you're willing to travel and do the legwork and the homework. But yeah, it's tough, and this is why, like, even last year, I mean, yeah, you could say the same thing. Like, we paid sticker for our Mach-E, technically slightly under because we got an incentive from Ford. It was they were running a promo for like 1,000 off or something at the time, but basically, paid sticker for the Mach-E, and now there's huge discounts on them. But it's one of those things you do what you can in the moment, as far as needing what you need at the time and all that. But yeah, I mean, talk about being underwater, especially if you bought them. And this is why I've been suggesting everyone lease EVs because of the charging tech's changing. We already see that with the CCS to NACS switch, and then yeah, the values just dropping off a cliff and everything. It's like this is why leases aren't always the best idea, but with an EV right now, with this changing technology, like a car you can just walk away from in 3 years without any financial downside, yes, you're not building equity in it, but I'd rather have that than be underwater on something and be stuck. So yeah, it's crazy what's happening with EVs right now. And I think it's temporary. I don't think it's going to last forever, but if you aren't getting into EVs or you want one, now is the time to get them because I really think that this is a temporary thing. They will level out the production and stuff. It's just, no one should be surprised. I mean, Ford had said they want to build over 100,000 Mach-E's a year. They were ramping up production for that. Same thing with Lightning. They were ramping up production. They had this mile-long wait list. They wanted to get everyone's orders filled. They've now done that. And then, it's like, well, everyone wanted them to ramp up production. It's like, oh, why can't I get my Lightning? I'm so mad. I've been waiting forever for it. And then it's like, okay, fine. Let's shove them out there as fast as we possibly can. And then everyone got them. And then everyone's like, oh boy, the Lightning's not selling very well. Must really suck. It's like, no, it doesn't suck. It's just that, like, when you're telling the company you want a zillion of these things and then they make a zillion and then you sell your zillion and then where's your next zillion coming from? And so it's this tricky thing of like, do you keep it super rare and then everyone's mad that you can't get their cars, or do you flood the market, make them easy, which is what Americans want? Americans want to stroll over to their lot on a Friday evening and pick one up in whatever their favorite color is and drive home that day. And that's the buying experience that Americans expect for cars, unfortunately. So I think, they're like, okay, well, here you go. You got 15 on the lot, like, have your pick. And then everyone's like, oh, wait a minute, these aren't selling well. And, so I think there's some of that too. I think it's just like maybe Lightning inventory levels are just like the same as normal F-150s, where they always have, 5 in every color on the lot, no matter what. And maybe it's just matching that finally, or maybe there's still a real problem there. And that's why we're seeing the discounts and stuff. I think there's some truth to both sides of that. But I think that, especially anti-EV people are really trying to jump hard on the whole, like, oh, these suck now because no one's buying them. It's like, no, everyone bought a ton of them, but there's only so many of those people right now. And so, you got to now work the hard work of convincing the people on the fence, and not just selling them to the people that are writing blank checks for them. And let me see. MDKN says, if you really like making a racket and edgy, fun driving dynamics, the Elantra N will fit the coming from a Kona N owner. Yeah, and that is true. The exhaust is a lot more fun in the Elantra N, and the adjustability and all that. It's definitely great. Kyle says, I defend my Camaro top to bottom, but Matt is so spot on with the storage. I put a pen on the side door slot. It was very hard to get out when I needed it. Otherwise, great driver engaged car. Yeah. That's funny, yeah, because that little pocket in the door, it really goes far back there, which I guess is handy if you transport Slim Jims or something around. But otherwise, it's like you're gonna really end up getting lost in the back there. And I guess it's a good incognito spot for hiding a screwdriver or whatever other stuff you want to hide in there. But yeah, it's yeah. And it's not, I don't know. I guess there's just only so much space to work with, but I don't know why they couldn't have given that car, a slightly deeper cubby somewhere. But yeah, and yeah, Kyle loves it. So if you're looking for other perspectives, yeah, 0-60 times. Yeah, you guys, I don't know if they're hiking message people in between YouTube, but feel free to chat with Kyle. I'm sure he'd be happy to chat with you about the Camaro as well. And Raphael said, funny enough, I buy gas cars, but all electric tools. See, and that's, so it's mix or match. Everyone's got different preferences, and that's why choice is great. Give everyone the choice, whatever fits whatever they want for that specific task. let them have it. And I think it's great. Austin says when EVs can charge as fast as we can fill up with gas, I think we will see mass adoption, providing prices comparable to ICE equivalent. Yeah. And I think, like we will see if it actually happens, but the solid state stuff seems to be pretty quick. Like, it's going to be having these 5-minute recharge times, and that's the goal. So we'll see, if they get there or not. Sorry, I think my voice is slowly starting to go out. So we will see how much longer I stay on here. But I think the voice is starting to cave here. So Truck and Car Guy says usually fleets don't replace tires until absolutely necessary, unless the tire has a puncture or something. Yeah, which is definitely sketchy. And he also said also rental cars kind of travel around as necessary, so the same rental car can be in the desert one month and the snow the next. Yeah, that's a very good point. You're right. So I guess that's a good reason, but I feel like Alaska is a really far. Like I feel like Alaska rental cars probably don't get out of Alaska very often unless they can use them in Canada, but I feel like they'd have a different fleet. I don't know. I feel like Alaska should be more isolated, but I could be wrong. I knew nothing about the rental car business. And Trunk Car Guy also says, speaking of markups, took the Magnum in for a service and sitting in the showroom was a wide body Charger Scat Pack for 75 with a 7.5 grand market adjustment. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll get it since it's the last year, and if they sit on it long enough, someone will be desperate enough, I guess. But I can't ever justify a markup on anything. Rafi says I still stand by having hybrids, best of both worlds for now until charging times can significantly decrease and be more available. Yeah, and hybrids are a great solution, for a lot of people, especially those apartment dwellers, people who don't want to be bothered with charging, and it's just some people, their personality type just doesn't want to deal with that. So I think hybrids are a great solution. I think that's why Toyota's killing it right now, and I think why they had the right idea all along, having the great hybrid coverage, and now Honda's playing catch up and trying to do the same thing, because I think they see that this is definitely a very good approach for now, and it makes sense, of doing the baby steps there for people. And Raphael said, I'm not anti-EV or pro-gas, and EV isn't right for me right now, but they're going to get there, and then I'll buy one. Yeah, and I mean, and everyone's got different preferences. There's a lot of people that are anti-EV, even on this channel. I've, had a lot of those kind of comments when I talk about EVs and the weekly updates and stuff. And, everyone's got their preferences, and, it's not for me to say, what the right thing is. I don't think anyone has a crystal ball about what the right solution is and, how things will play out. And so that's why I just give people the choice. I think it'd be great if every car company had solid hybrids, solid plug-in hybrids, solid gas stuff, and solid EVs, because I think even the hybrid stuff annoys some people. They don't even want hybrids. They don't want to have their engine shutting off ever. They want to always have their engine running all the time. They don't like stop-start technology. They don't want anything. Like, they want to have their engine running whenever they stop. They go in to get gas. They want to have their engine running in their driveway for 20 minutes before they leave for work. They want to, they want to always have their engine running. And so there's some people, even a hybrid is an offensive thing still. So, that's why I think having everything for everybody is great. And, I think that, let the cars sell themselves, let the perks sell themselves. Like I said, I think for the average person that, doesn't enjoy oil changes and gas fill-ups and stuff, I think that the EVs will win out eventually, again, once things line up, but maybe they won't. And, like I said, but they have to be good enough. You just got to put it out there and like I said, let them sell themselves. And I think right now, a lot of people are saying the hybrid is probably the thing that's selling itself the easiest, because people see the high gas prices, especially, some of these states like California and stuff, but even, elsewhere in the country, we've been seeing some really high gas prices in the past year and a half. And, a hybrid could be a nice, solution that isn't super expensive, or like with some of these Toyotas and stuff, it's not even an upcharge, and it's great, So I think, the hybrids are kind of almost giving us a preview of what we could have with EVs, with the price parity and, having tech that's familiar enough, that's, had time to prove itself. That's, I just feel like that's, kind of an early look at how the world may be with EVs in 10 or 20 years or something. Maybe not, maybe they won't, we'll see. But I think it's very interesting. But I think, hybrids are great. And Rafi says the haters most likely haven't driven one. That is, I think there's some validity to that. I think that there a lot of people, though, it could float and be the most amazing thing ever, and there's still some people that just wouldn't like it for a various amount of other reasons, that I've seen for anti-EV stuff. But there, it's like how funny you mentioned that though about driving it, because I was talking to the guy that owns the Mustang Mach 1 that I reviewed last month. His daily is actually a Tesla Model 3 Performance. And he said that he was a big biker guy. He's gone to all the bike rallies and he's got Harleys and all that stuff. And he said that he showed up at his local bar in his Tesla when he first got it. And his buddies were like, dude, what's wrong with you? Like, please say it's not true. Like, why do you have this Tesla? And like, the typical, not more trying to stereotype, but going into a biker bar with a Tesla probably isn't the best best idea, just based on preconceived notions of that whole thing. But he was like, before you guys hate on it, he's like, go hop in and take it for a drive. And then they like, I guess, did their launch in the Tesla or whatever, and they're like, okay, I get it. And they were like, that instantly converted them. It was just the acceleration was like enough to be like, okay, EVs are cool now. So there are some people that's all it takes. I think a lot of people have a more deep-seated hatred for that, but for some people, yeah, I think driving it certainly is a great way to like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. I know Beth fell in love with the power delivery, and like I said, she was able to say goodbye to transmissions forever, and that annoyance that she always had with all of her cars she's ever had, really. And so there's a lot of people that instant power. I think a lot of drag racers are going to love the new Charger EV when they give it a chance, because they'll see perfect launches every single time with no effort, beating everyone at the drag strip or the red light without any effort. I think there will be some of those people, but I feel like there's an uphill battle for a lot of the other people as well that are, on the fence and might not ever like EVs, and that's okay too. It's, again, everyone likes something different. And Trent Cargill says, I do agree that hybrid is probably the play right now until the infrastructure gets built up and the battery tech improves. Yeah, and I think, again, that comes down to everyone's risk, profiles as well. Because, like, in my viewpoint, like, the infrastructure, at least with my experience, which maybe I've been lucky. I mean, obviously it's not perfect, but like I've had no issues with infrastructure with our Mach-E. Had no issues with the battery tech. We're happy with the battery tech. Like, I have no complaints. So to me, it is, for my personality type and with my experience with where I live and our demands for the car, there's no need for improvement. I'm good with it exactly the way that it is. Obviously, that varies wildly for different people, but I've heard a lot of other EV people that are like, it's fine. Like, I'm good. Like, and there's people that do crazy. There's someone else I was talking to. Well, actually, it was the guy that has the Mach 1 that also has the Tesla. He was like, oh yeah, I've driven this Tesla from Maryland to Colorado and back multiple times a year. He's like, it's great. It's a great road tripper. He's like, it's, again, the realistic thing of like, unless you're doing a cannonball run, everyone stops and goes to the bathroom whenever they refuel. They, get a snack, they stretch their legs and stuff. And by the time you're done doing all that stuff, your car's already ready to go if you have a decent charge rate. So, it all, again, it just comes down to personality type. And so for some people, it's not there yet. And for other people it is. And it's just, getting it to a good enough place where it's good enough for everybody, I guess, and fits everyone's personality types. Austin said, hey Matt, if you weren't doing YouTube and money was not an object, what would your ideal career be? That's tough, because I feel like if money wasn't an object, I wouldn't do a career at all. I would just like play with my daughter and just hang out with the family and drive my car when I feel like it. That's I guess for me, if I'm being totally honest, I love what I do, but like I would love to just not work, to be totally honest, and just kind of, especially after so many years of just being like on full throttle all the time, again, rushing everywhere, going everywhere, just being in a general blur, all around. I think that, to me, just taking time off is like the ideal career move. Being unemployed is the ideal career move. Not like I ever want to, be unemployed, because again, I desperately, am thankful that I have a great job and all that. But if I get your question though, so to try and answer your question, if I wasn't doing YouTube and I wasn't worried about what I was doing money wise, I would say for me, it would probably be acting. That's the one other thing that I got really close to pursuing seriously. And any of you who followed a long enough time, you might remember I did a video about how I was an extra for a while, and so I've been in movies just as like a background extra. And I took a couple of acting classes. I took one in college, and I actually took one after I graduated college as well here in Pittsburgh with a buddy of mine. And I seriously considered relocating to LA with my buddy. This was probably at this point around 2012, 2013 ish, and really seriously, like we even went out there for a week and like shopped around apartments and like kind of, we actually met with like some casting directors. We went to like a party that one of the casting directors held, and my buddy was able to get us into. And I was really pursuing that. I think because to me, for my personality, again, for just me being myself, the only thing that has come close to the fun that I have doing car reviews is being on a movie set. Being on a movie set or a TV show, any set, the buzz and the excitement, not just because of like the celebrities, but just like, the fancy cameras and the lighting and everyone doing their thing, and it all being focused on, your performance. And even if I'm just in the background, sitting there acting casual or whatever, it's just like, it's this really excitement thing, because there's just like so much money involved in making these, productions, so many people working so hard. And then, the celebrities added in, and then the fact that you're getting to play dress up, play pretend in a way, and being someone other than yourself is kind of fun, kind of trying to just, I don't know, just, pretend essentially. I don't know. Acting's very fun for me. It's something I haven't done in years because I just have no time, but that's something I would love to, explore as a hobby down the road, potentially. But I would say that if I didn't have to worry about money and I wasn't doing YouTube, I'd probably try and get back into acting in one form or another. Because it's so much fun. And if you're ever wanting to try and sample it, a lot of cities these days have, casting calls for extras. Just be an extra. I mean, it doesn't make anything. I was making minimum wage plus time and a half for anything over 8 hours, which any movie shoot that you're doing, it's typically at least 12 hours. It's one of those things. You do make a little bit more than minimum wage, but it doesn't pay very much. But it was a ton of fun. And so if you ever have a few days to burn or something, you want to just try something new, be an extra. Highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of really cool people. It's how I met my wife. It's a really good place to meet people and talk and hang out. And so it's a ton of fun. So I guess that's probably what I would be doing, is I would be trying to be an actor, which is another thing. It's probably just as hard, if not even harder than, being a YouTuber, because there is a barrier to entry there. But, it's just everyone wants to be one of those, actors and famous people and stuff. And it's very tough. But that would probably be what my pursuit would be if I didn't have to worry about starving and didn't do YouTube. Raphael said, having driven the regular Tesla Model 3, I will say the steering feel was non-existent. That's something that can be improved. Yeah. And it's been a long time since I drove a Model 3, so I can't give great feedback on them aside from what I said in my review. But yeah, I mean, that's the one challenge with anything with electric power steering these days, is trying to give it enough feel, is definitely a challenge. Rafi says it definitely depends on lifestyle. I drive about 20,000 miles a year and I work at weird times. It doesn't work out for me, but my cousins work remotely a few days and their commutes are significantly shorter. Yeah. And same with us. I work from home. Beth, doesn't really go very far aside from just running errands and stuff. But that's, so for us, it really does, work out pretty well. Garth Harker says, I don't care what people say, EVs are not helping the environment. Almost all of the electric charging stations use coal power plants for electricity, plus all the precious metals for batteries. So all that stuff comes down to where you are. Some places do use a large amount of coal. Other places are actually using a lot of renewable stuff. The UK actually had a renewable energy surplus recently, where like they had too much energy produced with their like wind and solar and stuff. They actually had to like tone back production, I think, a little bit. So it depends. It just really depends. And I think Engineering Explained a few years ago did a really good video on this, where he addressed that specific thing. And that was kind of the gist of it, is that in some places, yes, it's greener in some places than others, but that's not a generality that I make, because it really does. There are some places where you are genuinely getting most of your power. And also the people that run solar on their house, you can power your car completely yourself, your electric car. If you have a solar, on your roof and you're, charging it up yourself, then you are, doing some help there as well. And with that, some people, you can even produce so much that you're feeding into the grid and giving the power companies some renewable energy as well, and making money on the side in addition. But so it's all depending on where you're at. Truck and Car Guy says, here in Arizona, I've yet to see a single EV charger, at least in the part of the city I work at. Granted, if I went to a wealthier part of town, I'd probably see EV chargers all over the place. Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, where the infrastructure really does need to improve, is in the places where there's very few EVs. But that's the part, is that people see that and say, oh, there's nothing around here. And so that probably hurts the adoption of EVs in those places. But it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, and I think the companies are starting to see that you have to just put the chargers there, even if no one uses them, just for the road trippers, or just, to get those people that, might, happen to be on the other side of town for whatever reason, or need, or live in those areas and, want to have the reliable fast charging. I think, the focus still for fast charging, I think it's going to come down to how close do you live to highways too, because they're still really focusing on, why do we need fast chargers? Most people need fast chargers for a road trip. If you have an EV, I don't recommend anyone get an EV if you live in an apartment or you can't plug in and charge every night. But, I would say 99, well, maybe not 99%, but I would hope that close to 100% of EV owners charge it every night. And fast chargers they were never supposed to be the only way to charge. They are not supposed to replace gas stations. Your house, your garage is supposed to replace the gas station, not a fast charger. The fast charger is, oh no, I'm in a pinch, I need to top off really quick because I'm on a road trip, or I ran down my battery beyond the 250 miles of range I have, or whatever. That's what a fast charger is for. They're backups in a worst case scenario, or a road trip tool. That should be all that fast chargers are used for. It just, to me, I think that's why if you live near a highway, you're going to see a bunch of them. And I think that's the right approach for now. Eventually they will have to blanket them all over the place and have one in every corner of every town in the world. But, in these early days, it's like, who's actually using these? Road trippers, primarily, and that's it. So I think, again, it just comes down to where you live and how they've, done that. But I feel like, I feel like it just depends on where you live as far as whether it's bad or not. But Goth Rocker says, another thing to me, the EVs have no real personality or soul. They feel like an appliance to me. Even the way the steering feels, body feels. Teslas are fast, horrible interior, bad fit and finish. Yeah, I mean, the fit and finish is definitely well documented with the Teslas there. And again, it comes down to the car. To me, I think there's some they do the personality thing better than others. And like, some of them try and bake it in, that we're seeing that now with the Elantra, or with the Ioniq 5N. That's going to have, shifts and rev limiters and fake sounds and all kind of stuff that really helps. But I mean, like the Mach-E that we have, no, it's not more fun than my Bullet, and I don't even think it really feels like a Mustang at all. It's certainly not why we got it, but it is a really good appliance. But for a lot of people, a car is an appliance, and for the majority of people in the world, a car is an appliance. That's it. And so, they're not selling cars to us enthusiasts. Us enthusiasts already have our opinions. We already have our preferences and our brands and our favorite engine types or whatever. They're going after the mass appeal. And so I think making a really good appliance, I mean, that's why, most of the soulless crossovers you see on the road, it's the same thing. Does an average crossover on the road have more soul than a Tesla? Not really, but no one cares because they don't buy them for that. Minivan buyers don't want personality. They just want something quiet and smooth. And that's what an EV is. So I think that making good appliances is the way to win over Americans, I think, for EVs, honestly, because they don't care what us enthusiasts think. They have us covered with the performance stuff, and they have us covered with all the other, stuff that they do. And so I feel like, again, they're not going after people like you and me. They're going after, the average person that just, like I said, hates Phillips, hates oil changes, just wants something quiet to go back and forth to work in, and that's it. And again, going back to, the guy that had the Mach 1 that I reviewed, he's like, when I want something exciting, I hop in my Mach 1, and that's great. But he's like, I sit in traffic every day on the Beltway in DC. He's like, it's miserable. It's going to be miserable in anything. I'm not having any fun commuting to work. So I might as well be in a nice, quiet, comfortable thing that I don't have to worry about a clutch pedal in, and a car that can, help drive itself a little bit, at least with the adaptive cruise and stuff, and that's, I think what most people want, honestly. They just want to relax and have a relaxing commute. There's very few of us that actually have a commute where we can have fun and race around on a back road and have a blast. And we see a trend car guesses. I think most EVs here are home charged and solar is big here. Yeah. And so that's why, if there's very little demand for the fast charging, then why bother? Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money to put in a fast charger. I think it's like roughly 100 grand is what I heard for like one of the slower ones. I think I've been hearing that like at the Porsche dealers where they've been putting in like their fast charging Porsche branded chargers, I've heard that that's like a minimum like $1 million investment for like a couple chargers, $1 million just to put a couple fast chargers in. So I mean, that's why it's like, do we absolutely need to do this? That's the decision that a lot of these business owners are coming up with. Like, is it that dire that I need to spend $1 million to put these in so the random Taycan can roll up and plug in for a few minutes? Like, is that worth $1 million investment? Probably not. So that's the thing, especially since, again, EVs are supposed to be charged at home. The fast charging is really a tough sell unless you are on a highway, where you're going to have a high traffic of people pounding that charger constantly. But if it's sitting there idle, then like you spend $1 million to put it in and no one's touching it, and you're not making any money with charging fees, which are also, still relatively low in most places. It's a money loser guaranteed to even put them in, low traffic places. Let me see. Jazz says, yes. However, if you live in the city of Pittsburgh, many neighborhoods, including where I grew up, only had street parking. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who can't have an EV. Definitely. And that is another problem why and that's another reason why I think, like we were saying earlier, hybrids are the way to go for those people. If you have street parking, if you have an apartment, do not get an EV. It's just going to be miserable. So yeah, but and the street parking is definitely, I think, an easier thing to tackle than the apartment thing. I mean, I guess it's still like two sides of the same coin, but at least if you have your own designated spot, typically, they've been playing around with concepts of having like every lamp post have a fast charging port on it, or at least a level 2 charging port, which is a lot cheaper. Again, if you're doing home charging, just put a level 2 in there. Or even just, I've been seeing like at the Pittsburgh airport here, they're doing the cheap approach for charging, where they have a few dedicated spots and all they have is a regular 12-volt power outlet in there. And they just like, it's a regular like house current plug. You bring your own charger and your car is sitting at the airport, so it doesn't need to charge fast anyway. And so and honestly, I think that's enough, like, for an airport. So everyone has different solutions, but I think even if you were just put a regular plug in every lamppost so that you can go head out with your little charger and plug it in, obviously there's worries about theft and stuff. So it's not a simple, solution, but, I think that, doing them in lampposts, things like that, I think there's some ideas there, but it's tricky. So I think that these are all the things we'll be spending the next decade working out and seeing what is the right solution. Is there a right solution, or is it just like EVs are only for homeowners and that's the end of it and it just never goes beyond that? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think the batteries getting better will certainly help, and those fast chargers will become more like gas stations eventually, with convenience stores attached and stuff. And then you'll see 5-minute recharge times and people doing the usual thing they do with gas. I think that's going to get to that point for those people that can't charge at home. But I think there's just always still going to be less of those, because there's still going to be less demand for fast charging than there will be for gas stations forever, because again of the home charging. There's going to be less demand, so you will never see the same level as you see for gas stations. And so I think you will see still a good amount, but I don't think it's ever going to get to the equivalency to gas station frequency out there in the world, because it doesn't make any sense for a vehicle that you charge at home. And let me see. Raphael says the Audi e-tron GT makes me really want an electric car and 3 more jobs to pay for it. Yeah, they are sweet. They're a ton of fun. Hunter says, let's talk about gas guzzlers. How about that CO6 10 MPG? LO, I want one so bad for watching the review. Me too. Yeah, that was so much fun. And yeah, it's, I mean, I said everything I needed to say in the review, honestly, so I don't need to regurgitate everything I said there, but it is so, so good. And yeah, it's just, and I've had friends even ask, yeah, is it better than a regular C8 by that much to be so much more expensive? And it's like, yeah, like it's worth the tens of thousands of dollars extra over C8 because it's really that much better than a regular C8 even. C8's a great car, but man, that CO6 is pure magic and worth the 10 mpg 100% if you can afford it. What a glorious car to burn burn off your 10 mpg. A whole lot better use of a gas guzzling engine than some boring land yacht. So to me, yeah, I love the Z06s. Jasmine says, what do you think about the bill in Wyoming legislature to ban electric cars? I think is that recent, because I thought I heard about something like that a little while ago, and it seemed like it wasn't going to go very far. I don't stay up on all the political stuff as far as EVs goes, because I feel like there's a lot of politicking, and there's a lot of scoring points, putting headlines out there, and then not actually following through. So I don't know. I honestly don't know enough about it to make an intelligent statement on that. But I mean, that's one of the things about the United States. Every state has their own, micro government. They can do what they want to do. And, I mean, that's just the choice of any states. I mean, even like our Mach-E, like we have family in West Virginia, but West Virginia is like a dead zone with chargers unless you have a Tesla. Like there is almost zero fast chargers in West Virginia. So guess what? Like I usually wait until I have a gas vehicle to drive down to visit them. We can do it in the Mach-E, and it's just a little bit of a pain. We just have to charge right before we get into like the West Virginia border, basically. It's less convenient with that, and it's just something that we just, thankfully with my job, I don't have to worry about, because I just wait till I have a gas powered car and then we go down. And it makes sense. But I mean, so that's like, if you want to be a state that isn't hospitable to EVs, that's fine. But guess what? All those road trippers are going to avoid your state. Maybe that's worth it. Maybe they don't care. Like West Virginia is very proud of their coal, and they don't want to have anything, other than coal for the most part. I mean, they are putting up some solar arrays. And I think actually our next energy, it's called One, they do the really impressive, they did the 700-mile battery in the Model S last winter, and they're really doing crazy things. They just put in a huge thing in West Virginia. So I'm not speaking in generalities. West Virginia does have some open-mindedness to alternative energy, but right now it's just a complete dead zone. And I've actually seen on forums, people are like, yeah, if you have an EV, in the Mach-E forums, everyone's like, if you have a Mach-E, stay out of West Virginia, you're going to be screwed. So guess what? Everyone does all these routes around West Virginia. And again, I don't know how much tourist revenue you're going to get off of a few EV owners when they're 5% of the market. It's probably not a big problem now, but if it's popular in 5 or 10 years, that might come back to bite them in the butt. So again, I think it's just to score political points, and that's it. And everyone will cave eventually, or maybe they won't, but that's their choice. They'll just be paying the side effects of that. Trying Car Guy says that Z06 is more car than most people can handle, even those who think they can handle it. Definitely. And I think especially people who aren't familiar with mid-engine driving dynamics, that's what's going to really get Corvette fans in trouble, because mid-engine cars drive very differently than the average front-engine rear-wheel drive car does. And so if you don't have a lot of experience with mid-engine stuff, it can, especially when you start pushing it to the limit, it can really bite back in unfamiliar ways for the average front-engine rear-wheel drive driver. And so I'm happy to see. I honestly thought I'd see more wrecked Z06s in the past year here. Thankfully, I haven't really seen very many. Although, yeah, I've seen a couple, and I've heard about a couple. But thankfully, it seems like the safety technology in those is just really good, with the traction control, stability control, to hopefully nip most of that in the butt. Even if you are, having no clue how to drive a mid-engine car, it's still, hopefully can give you a pretty good safety net there. And Troy Garga says that CR1 is going to be insane. Probably the closest to a street car we'll get to a C8R race car. Probably, yeah, that's probably true. And then they're going to go even crazier with the Zora, with putting the E-Rays electric motor in the front, most likely. getting you to 1,000 horsepower or whatever, having instant electric response, plus a probably twin turbo flat plane crank, insane powerful engine. It's just like gonna be so wild. It's just those GM engineers are awesome. I love them for it. Jasmo says, I think you would make a great movie star. Same with your wife. I appreciate the kind comments there. I see Austin says Matt should star in a Bullet remake. Well, I don't know. So there is a Bullet, well, not a Bullet remake, but there's a Bullet continuation story that I think Steven Spielberg is directing, and they announced that Bradley Cooper is going to be playing Frank Bullitt. Not in love with that casting choice, but I'll keep an open mind. It would have been a guaranteed, like they should have either done Ryan Gosling or Daniel Craig, but I'm not gonna rant about that. But anyway, there is a new Bullet movie coming. I think it's probably on hold because all the writer strikes and the SAG strike, but hopefully that does still happen. And yeah, I'll be curious to see. Supposedly, it will just be still set in the 60s. It's not going to be a modern movie. So I'm not getting my hopes up for any kind of 2019 Bullet to make an appearance in the movie or anything. But it sounds like they are doing a new Bullet movie, and so yeah, I'm very excited for that, and I hope it doesn't disappoint. Little nervous, a little disappointed, but if Steven Spielberg's behind it, I'm inclined to think he will do it right. And supposedly, that's a fun fact. He is a Bullet fan because back whenever I heard through the grapevine that whenever Ford, Ford, for those of you who might not be familiar, and Kyle, thank you so much for gifting the 5 memberships there. I really appreciate it. Glad to see everyone was able to snap those up. But I don't know how recently I've told this story, but for the Bullet that I have, Ford offered me a VIP ordering for it. And so that's why I have VIN number 12. And supposedly the story goes that the first few VINs went to the Ford executives that wanted them, and then they offered it to like Jay Leno, Steven Spielberg, and then probably a couple other people, and then me. So that's how I ended up with VIN 12. I don't know if Jay Leno got one. I don't know if Steven Spielberg got one, but I think they were just offered it. But so it seems like Steven Spielberg was at least on the list for a Bullet. He was interested in one, or they thought he would be interested in one. So I think he's actually a true Bullet fan. So I'm hoping that he does it justice. And I have confidence that hopefully he will. But yeah, I'd love to even just be a background actor in a Bullet remake. That would be just to be the guy like picking his nose on the street or something. I'd be overjoyed to even just get 30 milliseconds of screen time or something. It'd be fun. But yeah, so yeah, that'd be awesome. But that would be a dream to be in a Bullet remake. And SLMD says, what's up, Matt? How's it going, brother? Thanks for joining in. Doing well. Just a little bit of a hoarse voice here, but I'm hanging on, and just very run down after the crazy week of SEMA, and it's a whirlwind. And I always I'm always so obsessed with getting home as quickly as I possibly can that I also wanted to save some money in Vegas. I didn't want to spend another hotel night, but I even took a red eye Friday night. So I basically pulled an all-nighter, did everything yesterday I needed to do. So I was really running on fumes yesterday. Thankfully, I got a good night's sleep last night, but then today was crazy. Actually drove down to West Virginia and back. And so I'm just whew, it's been a whirlwind, but I'm doing well. Happy to still be breathing and still be having fun, hope you're doing well too, SLMD. And, Kyle says, have a good night, everyone. Thanks for gifting the memberships there, Kyle. And let me see. So Nathaniel, thanks for joining as well. And SMD says, VIN number 12 is a major W, Matt. It was a real honor. It's the one time that Ford actually seemed to be really excited about me. And then after that and this GT500 launch I was on. And then after those two things, it was I haven't heard from them since. But I'm very grateful for the slight bit of attention they paid me for, about 6 months or so there. And somebody else says, how much would an extra realistically make? A couple hundred or thousands? Extras, maybe it depends on the shoot and what you're doing. You can be an extra in a, insurance commercial or some type of, drug commercial or something like that and make good money. I think some of the stuff I still get emails because I'm still in the casting directors, email list of people that potentially want to be extras. Some of these, if you're an extra in a healthcare commercial shoot, like you could make like $1,000 a day. Typically only work like a day or two, but those are like the best paying ones. There's some print ads and stuff for you just in the background, and some of those can pay decently. But then as far as like the movie stuff that I did, and again, it might have changed a little bit because I haven't been an extra and geez, it's been probably 9 years now, probably about that. But anyway, I got paid minimum wage and then time and a half after that. And most movie shoots go at least 12 hours. Typically, it's between 12 and 16. So you do make more than minimum wage on on that other extra time beyond 8 hours, but it's you're not making very much money. So it's definitely something you do for the fun of it, or because you have a free day to kill, or because you like the actor that's in the movie or whatever. But it's not really sustainable as a career choice, again, unless you have very low income requirements, or you're just fine being a starving artist. And Austin says, I don't know how they would be able to top the iconic car chase in a Bullet sequel. The only modern movie that came close for me was Ronin. Yeah, and that's definitely still one of the top rated car chases as well. I think, yeah, it's tricky like how they top it. I think for me, like the way they could top it would be to still use zero computer generated stuff and just make it crazier, higher speeds, higher jumps, that kind of stuff could maybe really put it over. But it's, can you beat the sketchiness of the original still with Steve McQueen and Bud Elkins, who was his stunt driver, doing those jumps in something with drum brakes that were, sketchy in the car that, was fishtailing all over the place and, was very tricky at the limit and had 1960s tech like that took guts. So I think it's always going to be a higher level of respect. I think, with this Bullet remake, if they found crazy enough stunt drivers to do the same thing, use the crappy tech. I mean, these days there's no way legal and insurance would let them do that. But if you ran an actual 68 Mustang with drum brakes and still did those jumps today at, the same or higher speeds, just honestly, if they could even just recreate the chase with the same old tech and just do it again, I think that would be pretty crazy. I mean, honestly, I think if you want to think of what a Bullet one-upping would be without CGI, I think Ken Block did it. He did it, in which one was it? He did it in a Fiesta rally car in San Francisco. They shut down San Francisco and he did like a Bullet homage. So there was a little snippet where he was doing the jumps over that same hill at 100 miles an hour, soaring over the hills in that Fiesta. Honestly, I think that made it one of my favorites aside from the Subaru ones that Ken Block ever did with the Gymkhana videos, because I think he kind of one up Steve McQueen, and he did it for real, and he did it, in something that took guts to do, that fast, that realistically, it's just, I think that was to me the wow, like he actually took it to the next level without the help of computers. So I think that's, if you want to see a good little homage to Bullet that's crazier than the original, I think that's a good one. And Fook says, I heard they're very generous with extras. Maybe some movies these days, I don't know. Maybe it depends on where you're at, but yeah, no, it was pretty standard, little pay, and that was it. Because again, you're just an extra at the end of the day. You're just animated backdrop essentially. And these days, especially with AI and CGI and stuff, you don't even need as many extras or any at all. And it was actually kind of funny. The one movie I was in was what was it called? Foxcatcher. I think that there was a working title and then the final title. I think Foxcatcher was what it's called. It was the one with Channing Tatum. What's the guy who plays? I'm blanking on the name. He plays the Hulk. That guy. They were wrestlers in a movie. Steve Carell was in it as well. That movie, as an extra, one of the interesting things they did was we were sitting in an arena and we were an audience for a wrestling match, and we were sitting in one spot, and then we moved to another spot in the same positions, but then they scanned us with, and this was back in 2013, I think, for that one. They scanned us with whatever technology they had back then, and then they cloned us, and so there's potentially multiple Matts in this wrestling match watching that happen. And so they don't even need to pay to fill the whole stadium. You just have enough to get by with the cameras, and then you just the computers just take over and clone you for whatever they need, and that's it. So I think extras it's definitely going to be a dying art, if you can call it that, because they're just, there's more and more CGI. You just don't need it anymore. Garth Walker says, yeah, you can't top the original. Hollywood will use all CGI now for the remake. Yeah, you're right. And sorry, Sean, I missed your super chat. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat. He says, the good news, AAA is giving me 16 grand for the car that cost me 18 grand new in 2017. That's a win. Bad news, Kia never gave me a title. DMV says new one will take 6 weeks, no check until then, and no more free rental car after the 9th. That sucks. Well, yeah, that's bizarre that they never gave you a title. I feel like there's got to be something like legally not kosher there. Like you could hunt Kia down and get, legal, get someone involved legally, because I feel like that's on them, and so they should cover the fact that you're screwed now. Yeah, I don't know. And I feel like, were they giving people settlements for the like thefts as well, since they're like kind of admitting that like it was their shortcomings? I don't know, but anyway, I'm sure you've looked into everything, Sean, so I won't try and problem solve for you, but that really sucks. Hope you can find something to help you get by here for the next few weeks. And yeah, you can try and start a YouTube channel and apply for press cars in your area. Get a free car to drive that way. I don't know. But yeah, that's going to be tough, but hopefully it works out for you. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat, especially given your situation. I hope that you can find something that works. Maybe there can be a cheap Turo or something that is cheaper than a rental and isn't going to cost you a ton, but still paying extras, not fun. So sorry to hear that. And Trying Cargo says, that's unfortunate. Yeah, hope things improve. Brian says, aside from cars, do you have another hobby or interest that you have? If you weren't doing car reviews, what would you pursue? Well, kind of like I said earlier, being an extra in movies and being an actor, that's really my one other strong passion that I really loved. And so I'd love to do that. As far as other hobbies or interests, I have a bunch of stuff that I would love to pursue or try. I just have no time for. So I have no time for anything aside from, putting out as many videos as I can, spending as much time with the family as I can. And that's really all I have time for these days. So I'm in the camp of people that are just like, I'll do hobbies some mythical day when I find some kind of free time. But I'm very jealous of anyone who can say that they are ever bored. I'm like never ever. I haven't been bored in years. I'm just like, oh, there's always something for me to do, and I'm always like, it's just like, it's crazy. So hobbies are a fun idea and a fun fantasy that maybe someday I'll be able to pursue again. And I'm sure I'll have more time eventually. Once our daughter's in school and life moves on from this stage, but it's just the stage I'm in right now is got zero time, at least the way I do parenting, the way I do life, just zero time for anything other than work and family. And Jordan says, are there still issues with people hot wiring Kias and Hyundais, the new models? I don't think so. I believe it was actually only stuff that didn't have push button starts, which now they're making standard. I'm pretty sure across the board. And I believe they've now come up with a fix. I don't know if it's an excellent fix, but I think they've come up with some. So yeah, I don't know, but I feel like I think there's still issues, but I'm not totally sure. And Sean, thanks for your member question there as well. He says, Kia said they sent it, but now I'm looking at a low mileage Scion TC or a BMW 2 Series. Thoughts? Well, first off, thanks for being a member for 16 months, Sean. That's awesome. You're one of the longest running members here. I really appreciate it. As far as those two, if you want something with some maintenance, that's always my caveat with the BMWs and any German vehicles, the electrical gremlins and expensive maintenance. So for me, that's an easy choice, especially if you're not opposed to front wheel drive. Scion TC all day. It's going to be bulletproof, reliable. I think they look great. I've always loved the TCs. I actually really want to review one on the channel if I can find one that hasn't been driven to hell and back. But I love the TC. I really think they're great cars. And yeah, and I honestly, like, if I wanted a cheap car I think like a Scion TC would probably be pretty highly ranked up there as like a car that if I wanted to pay, 5 or 10 grand or something in that ballpark, for a car with cash or something. I think a Scion TC would be high on my list. Right up there with like a really beat up Civic Si or something like that. But I think the TC would probably be a better buy just because again, there's still some nice unmodified ones out there, I think, that would be, good solid cars. So I definitely would love, yeah, I think I'd love a TC myself, honestly. And I think that, yeah, it'd be a great car. So hopefully that helps you a little bit there, Sean. And yeah, it just, any Toyota though, you could still also get burned if it didn't have good maintenance and stuff. So definitely want to check it out as much as you can. Make sure that the Carfax isn't hideous or anything like that. But as far as a well-maintained Scion TC, I mean, it should probably run 1,000,000 miles, no problem, I think. So yeah, I appreciate that, Sean. And let me see here, other member questions. It's telling me another super chat came in, but I don't know. It's not popping up, so I don't know if it's just being weird with my notifications here or what. I will get to it if I see it. But in the meantime, the next member question I see Sean's talking about the experience here with the rental car and all that. And Trent Cargo says, I can understand the stress of potentially having a rental for that length of time. Yeah, that definitely wouldn't be fun. And I trust me, I mean, I hated having a rental whenever the Bullet, kept getting, or not the Bullet, the Mustang, the 2016 Mustang GT kept getting, ran into with the motorcycle and then the tree. Especially both those things happened in the summertime when you want to have fun with your car. And it's no fun being stuck in a rental when you would just want to have your car back. So I totally get that. And even with those both times I would wait, I think it was over a month for the Bullet, or I keep saying the Bullet, for the Mustang to get fixed. It just took forever. And Mike says, Matt, do you think Mazda's quest for premium will pay off overall? I think it will. The reason why, I mean, so far it seems like it is. They've been really impressed internally with the CX-90 sales, from what I've heard. And they are selling well. They're being received well. And I think that's part of why they're emboldened. I think, because whenever I was doing the weekly update about the potential Mazda 6 return or whatever they end up calling it, supposedly the thinking is that is now on the table and happening potentially because the CX-90 did so well. And so what do all these premium brands still have? A sedan. What does Mazda not have? A sedan outside of the Mazda 3, which, isn't very premium. I mean, I guess you could say it's an entry-level premium, but they don't have a grand sedan like all their, ideal competitors, that they want to be like the BMWs and stuff like that. They need that. So I think for them, it might not be that it's being justified by sales, but it's just being justified by like, hey, like this premium thing is actually starting to work. We need to legitimize it by having other premium offerings. And I think that, doing the 6 will help that. I think you could even stretch it and say that could potentially be what justifies this new Mazda RX-9 or whatever they end up calling it that we saw in Tokyo. Could be the same thinking of, okay, well, what does BMW and Mercedes and Audi have? Sports cars, performance cars, at least. So there needs to be an aspect of performance there, I think. And I know Mazda's been trying to shake off the Mazda speed thing for some reason. They're like, it's like a dirty word at Mazda now to like talk about Mazda speed. It's like, oh no, like we're not doing a turbo Mazda 3 because it's a Mazda speed. We're doing it because it's premium and that's what we need to compete with an Audi A3. And so it's whatever, that's their choice. But I think that they're going to have to get into the performance stuff because that's something that all the other, big luxury brands do. And so I think that, that's going to be good for us enthusiasts, at least the ones of us that have deep pockets to pay for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it is working on so far. We will see if they can extend it beyond, the big family crossovers or not. But I think it seems like it is paying off so far. And I think they've priced it well. I think, they did the right approach. You have the Turbo S version for people who want the extra power and the extra features. But the regular CX-90 is priced very similar to all the Palisades and Tellurides and Grand Highlanders. And so, it's not the biggest out of all of them, but, you make up for it with a very premium interior and the different platform and all that. And so I think that it is working, and I think that at that price point, keeping it nicer than the rest for the same money is definitely going to be a strong way to get off on the right foot with the whole premium thing, and hopefully it keeps doing well for them. And Trent Cargill said, I have a coworker with a TC. He loves it. It got rear-ended, so the rear bumper is missing, but he still loves driving it. That's great. Yeah, TCs I think they're really good cars. Jordan says, do you see any benefits for Ford if they go full electric with the Maverick, especially with the access to the Tesla charging stations? I think it's something that they're going to want to do eventually, but I don't know if I actually see a benefit. I think that the current Maverick is hot because it's cheap and because it's familiar technology with no barrier to entry. There's nothing that freaks anyone out really these days about a hybrid. Again, there's some people that they don't like hybrids because, again, they want to have their engine running nonstop, and they're still worried about the battery replacement for a hybrid or whatever the case might be. So there is some there, and I guess that's why Ford still has the other Turbo 4 option for those people who are not into the hybrid. But I think that Ford really has their bases covered really well with the Maverick, the fantastic fuel economy, the fantastic packaging, but I think bottom line, price and fuel economy, and the fact that it's still a truck, and that's why they're so hot. And so I think you lose out on that. Be going electric, it's going to get way more expensive. It's just going to exclude a lot of people who, again, just aren't into EVs. So I think an electric Maverick wouldn't be as successful as the original. It still could be a success in a different way, or a lesser success, but I think that I don't think they're ever going to beat the current Maverick as far as the demand and the appeal with any new propulsion. I think they stick with what they have. And if you want to do a good second generation Maverick, you keep the same powertrains, carry them over, and then just, make it have a little bit of a bigger back seat or something, maybe try to improve the space, a little bit, keep it modern, and that's it. And then just milk it for all it's worth with that platform. That's it. I think they got a good thing going, and I think messing with it would probably just ruin it to some degree. And Steven says, excellent content on the Corvette. Thank you so much, Steven. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm now even more envious having experienced the Z06, having your Z06. Man, it's got to be so much fun. I'm hoping you're enjoying it to the fullest. And yeah, congrats on getting one too, because it's a fun car. And that's, obviously I still like having a back seat, and I like having something that's, just a little more practical. But if I didn't need to worry about a back seat and practicality, which, I mean, it's more practical than people give it credit for, I think. But, Z06 is just, if I had the money, be very, very towards the top of my list of cars I would actually part with a bullet for if I could afford it. And let me see. Austin says, what's your favorite way to unwind in your limited downtime, Matt? Work-life balance and stress reduction is really important. I totally agree. And that's something that I can admit I am not doing well at right now. And that's, but that's, that's something I don't need to go into. But as far as favorite way to unwind, I think for me, it's just, I have a sense of, relief on the weekends whenever I'm not racing around to film a review. I think the one thing I've done well with time management is I've really kind of blocked off the weekends where I refuse to work most of the time on the weekends, again, aside from doing this, which, this isn't stressful. This is just fun hanging out, talking with you guys, but, aside from this, I don't really do any work on the weekends with the channel. I don't answer emails really on the weekend. I don't really even look at the comments a whole lot. I just really focus on family time. And I think the family time is really fun because, whenever I'm doing the family time, that's my unwinding time. It's not work for me to go to the zoo or, go trick-or-treating or, whatever it is. Like, those are insanely fun things that I get an immense amount of enjoyment out of. And so I think that's why, yes, I'm burning the candle at both ends, and I'm very much overworked just because of the way YouTube has structured things and just the fortunes of my channel and the way that it's gone for me. But I do just really just on the weekends, I just have a blast, and it's so relaxing to just spend that quality time, even if that's just sitting, with my daughter, just watching TV on a Saturday morning, and just doing crafts with her, or, going out for a family outing or whatever. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And also, Beth and I do a good job of, in the evenings, once I'm done working, even if I'm, working till like 11 o'clock, like I'm doing tonight, we usually try and you watch a Family Guy before bed, or catch SNL or something. We'll try and watch a few shows that we have time for. We don't have a lot of time to work through a lot of binge watching or anything, but short little things just to kind of end the day, and kind of put work out of my mind, and put my schedule and my insanity out of my mind, and just kind of kind of thaw out a little bit there before bed. So there's, stuff like that that I help keep my sanity with things like that. So, it's not like I'm 100% like nonstop working from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. There's definitely some breaks there, and I'm just thankful I get to eat dinner every night with my family. And, aside from the traveling, which I don't do as much of these days recently, but, so that kind of stuff, just having dinner with the family is a great way to just de-stress. And even if I have to race home to get the dinner in time or whatever, just being there and being present and just spending that quality time, while I have it. Anyone who has kids knows, they grow up really fast. And so I feel like I'm still doing a really good job of being like, at 5 o'clock, I'm done for the day. On the weekends, I'm not working, and, just really focusing on, just spending that quality time whenever I do have it. And let me see. And thanks for the question, Austin. I appreciate it as well. And I appreciate the concern about, trying to, not be overworked. It's something I'm definitely needing to improve on, though, for sure. And Sean says the TC would leave me with money in my pocket, but the Beamer is a Beamer. Yeah, and that's personal preference as far as your risk tolerance. You might not be worried about reliability, or you might be able to fix things yourself, or have friends in the BMW community that can help you with stuff. I mean, there's always workarounds. So I'm sure if your heart is in the BMW, then go for it. And if nothing else, it's one of those things. Sometimes you got to scratch that itch. You got to just try it, and say, okay, I've crossed that bridge now. I've done that thing, and I've now I've done that thing. And so I think there's some of that. I think that was part of it for me with the Mini. I had this, I really wanted a Mini. It was something I kind of built up in my head, and I was like, this is going to be great. I'm hoping it'll be fine. I had a friend who had a reliable R56, one of the few out there that are actually reliable, but and so I was like, oh, it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be good. And then it turned up to end up blowing up in my face, essentially, and almost literally. But so there's, but there's some times where it's just like, you want to try something, and there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes it'll pay off, sometimes it won't, but you try it, and you see what it's like. And that's valuable in itself. It's valuable, experience, and it's fun. And, it's like, there's something for that too. So if the BMW is more exciting, go for that for sure. Brian says full electric Maverick will be too expensive. Yeah. Best options, 50-mile range plug-in hybrid. That could be a great advancement for sure, doing a plug-in hybrid. And that's something they already have, with the Escape and stuff, which is being heavily underutilized. I don't know why Ford's not pushing. It sounds like they're going to push more into the plug-in hybrids eventually, but it seems like they've really been snoozing on that. And it's like, it's huge potential. Look at all the hype around the RAV4 Prime, and yet no one wants to touch a plug-in hybrid Escape. It's kind of crazy, but they just haven't improved the tech. They didn't do all-wheel drive at Ford, and just had some other shortcomings. But yeah, I think plug-in hybrid would definitely be a great evolution. And Brian says a hybrid Maverick owner here. It's great. I still want to drive the hybrid version. I've only driven the regular gas one, and I mean, obviously everyone's just been buying the hybrid, so they haven't had any in the press fleets, I guess. But yeah, I'd love to try it. It seems like they're awesome. Jordan says, last EV question, I promise. Do you know the reasoning behind the Rivian and Ford split? I think I've read about it a while back when it happened. I don't remember the details. I don't recall. There was a good reason for it. It didn't seem like it was like an ugly breakup or anything. It seemed like it was amicable, and it just made sense to kind of dissolve the partnership, I think, a little bit. And I think, potentially, it was also just the fact that they eventually became a competitor, with both the commercial side and with the consumer side a little bit as well. And so I think, it gets a little a little complicated, with that relationship whenever there's competition involved and overlap like that. And Steven says absolutely about the Z06 there and enjoyed your smiles. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, that video did pretty well. I honestly was surprised the Z06 video did as well as it did. Because typically anything that is that expensive, even if it's amazing and gas powered, like it usually doesn't do well. Like the Ferrari 458 video that I filmed back in 2021, hardly anyone watched it. Supercars typically don't do very well. The NSX video didn't do very well for me in the past. It has since kind of grown in views over the years, but so I just honestly didn't expect anything out of the Z06 review, views wise. So I'm really happy that so many people have really enjoyed it, and the algorithm has picked it up and pushed it to other people as well. And so it's been a pleasant surprise that one has done as well as it has. So yeah, but it is an amazing car, so it definitely deserved to get the limelight there. Jordan says, have you and Sarah and Tune crossed paths or ever planned a co-op review? No, she's on the other side of the country. Our paths have crossed actually at SEMA. Typically, we're both at SEMA. I haven't been at SEMA the past few years, but I think 2019 she was at SEMA, and she actually sent me a message like, hey, like we should like meet up and say hi or something. And then like it just, I was always, again, story of my life, too busy, didn't have the time, and wasn't able to meet up then. And then she was there this week too, I saw, but I didn't see her. I think she probably took off before I was there or something. I have no clue, but so I don't know if the days overlap, but she was there. So I mean, there's been a few times where she hasn't been on any of the press drives I've been on, but she's been in the vicinity sometimes, and it hasn't ever worked out. But yeah, she does a great channel, and I'm really happy. She does really good car reviews, and I think, again, I've said in the past, I think there needs to be more female car reviewers out there, and it's just really great that she is that. She's a really great female car reviewer, and I'm happy that she has all the success she has. She's doing a really good job with her channel. And Steven says, much respect for being both a family man and a car man. It's all about family. I'm lucky to have a 6-year-old grandson. Congrats. Amazing how fast life moves along. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. So that's why I'm just, trying to, keep my head above water with the YouTube channel and do that as best as I possibly can, but also make sure that I, have as much family time as I can as well. And so Austin says, have a great week, everyone. Thanks, Austin. Yeah, we got another 4 minutes here. We can, I'll go till the very end, so maybe I can catch up on some of the non-member questions as well, just very briefly here. So I see Carstack Wood says the Car Mom is a great female car reviewer as well. Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of her long form stuff. I've just seen shorter stuff from them, like, the short form content. But she was actually, I think she was at the Buick and Vista launch that I was at. I didn't talk to her. I just saw her doing her thing in the distance with one of the cars. But and Doug says, that's my neighbor. That's awesome. Yeah, there are more and more out there. That's great. It's just that it's still, at least as far as the press launches that I go on, it's 90% guys still. Some events are a little more even, maybe it's 75% guys, but it's still with ladies doing more than 50% of the car purchasing and influencing. It just, seems like there should be more ladies than guys doing this, honestly, and it's the exact opposite. And Lil Danny says, what is your dream wagon? Dream wagon. I was actually thinking about wagons the other day, and I can't remember. I would say probably the Audi RS6 Avant. I think that would be my wagon if I were to get one and had all the money in the world. RS6 Avant for sure. And Brandon says, do you have any thoughts on the Porsche 718 Cayman S? I'd like to get one that's new or 1 to 2 years old this coming year, and I wanted to hear if you have any thoughts on them. I actually did a review on a 718 Cayman S. So if you search, I don't remember the model year of the one I did, but I have reviewed one. So that'll have all my thoughts in that video. Beyond what I said in that video, I mean, it's a turbo 4-cylinder Porsche. They're known for their 6 cylinders. So bottom line, to me, it's not as magical as the Cayman GTS or the GT4, but it's still a really solid car. And if you're someone who's always wanted, if you're especially like coming from the Subarus and you like that boxer rumble, because you kind of get that in the 718s or the 4-cylinder. It's kind of funny. If you're someone who's into that, or you're not held up by the fact that it doesn't have a 6-cylinder, I think that they still performed very well. So I think there's some redeeming qualities to them. I don't know if it would be my pick personally, even though I do come from the Subaru thing, and you think I would enjoy that, but I think for me, it's just their 6-cylinders are so sweet that I'd find a way to just go for one of the 6-cylinder ones myself. But again, everyone likes something different. I think there's nothing wrong with them. They're really good cars. And it's just sometimes the way the motor is tuned, and I'm just trying to remember from my review, and so the review will be the best way to get my in the seat impressions there. But I think it seemed like sometimes the PDK was set up for hypermiling a little bit still, and it still was like an everything or nothing thing with the boosty nature of that engine, which can be fun, but if you're daily driving, it can be kind of annoying sometimes unless you're manually shifting everywhere you go. If you have the manual, then you're not going to have that problem. But and I see you're saying you have a BRZ now, and I've had it for like 7 years and need something new. So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a great step up. I also love the new BRZs, and I think it's a really good evolution. So I don't know if that's any kind of appeal to you. I'm sure you've already evaluated that for yourself, but if I was in your shoes, like for example, if I kept my BRZ that I bought back in 2013 and I kept it all these years, I almost certainly, if I wasn't into the Mustangs and stuff, I would have definitely went and upgraded for the new one because it's just fantastic. So I think it's a really good evolution. So if you really love the BRZ, I mean, maybe you just want a different experience altogether, and that's totally valid as well. But if you like the BRZ, you just want more power or something newer, better infotainment, whatever, I think the new BRZ is also great. But unsolicited opinion there. And we're at the 2-hour marks. The last question, I see Alex says, what car do you own right now? I have a 2019 Mustang Bullet, and then the family car is a 2022 Mustang Mach-E. And so those are the two cars we have. I have playlists on the channel for those cars. We want to have more info on those cars. I have done ownership videos with both of them, and those playlists will be great to get you up to speed on all those if you're curious to hear more. Yeah, so anyway, thank you all very much for joining here in the live stream. I'm glad my voice kind of held out. I know I'm probably sounding kind of rough here, but glad I was able to keep talking for 2 hours here. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining. I hope you all have a great week. Stay tuned for more good content here this week. It was fun trying out the new stuff here this past week with doing the reels on Instagram and then doing the drift ride video, which wasn't very popular, but that's usually the way it goes with motorsports stuff. It's always so hard for anyone to get views on anything motorsports related. But yeah, that was definitely a fun one to do this week, as you probably saw with all the smiles I had when I was riding around in that, if you watched it. But yeah, I'll be getting back to the car reviews here this week and getting back to the normal schedule. Hopefully won't be doing the late uploads quite as much. So stay tuned for some more good stuff here. And I'm really hoping to finish the year strong. I got some exciting stuff lined up, and so stay tuned for all that. Thank you all very much for watching the live stream, for watching the videos, all your support, and for your liking and subscribing and all that. It really means a lot. And just so thankful I'm continuing to be able to do this as my job here. So yeah, thank you once again for every view, every like, every comment. They always help, and I really appreciate it. So anyway, thank you all once again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.